And that's the true story of Christina Torres. And I had your attention. But you know what? You're my students, and you all listen to me, but how do I have any guarantee at all that any of the language I gave you is at all memorable? And the answer is no. You might just listen to the story and nothing. So I tell you what I'm going to do, my dear students. I'm going to tell you the story again. And this time, you need a pen and paper, and I know you've got it, because in their sessions people do a lot of writing down. Pen and paper, please. Everybody, quickly, because we haven't got long to go now. Yes, I'll do another 10. About 10 minutes? Okay, I'm going to tell you the story again. I tell you what I want you to do this time. This time, I want you to write down as many words as you can from the story. Words and phrases. But please don't misunderstand me. This is not N-O-T. This is not a dictation. If you try and make a dictation, you'll be screwed up in 2 seconds flat because I'm going too fast. So just write down as many words and phrases as you can, individually. Please do this because the next stage is really important. Are you ready? Okay, this is the story of Christina Torres. And Christina Torres, one day, she went to Brooklyn, and she went to Brooklyn to visit her friend. And her friend had just had her first baby, and so Christina, of course, wanted to visit her friend and take a present for the baby. And, you know, it's lovely when a good friend of yours has a baby. You want to meet the baby and celebrate. So off she went. And on the way, she stopped off at a cafe to have to buy coffee and a cake. And one of the reasons for that was that she herself had lived in that area, and that was the cafe she used to go to. So, as a bit of a sort of nostalgia thing, she went back to the same cafe, and she got her coffee and her cake, and she walked out into the sunshine, and she sat down. As she was drinking her coffee, a man came up to her, a bit creepy really, a man came up to her, and he said very quietly, "Could you please call 911? That's the emergency services number. There's a baby on the fire escape." And sure enough, when Christina looked round, there was this little baby by itself on the fire escape, about 8 months old, that kind of age. Seemed perfectly happy, but it was obviously in great danger, because if it fell, this was about 30 feet in the air, if it fell, well, who knows what would happen. So Christina called the baby, the 911, sorry, called 911, and told them what was happening. And as she was doing it, she looked at the baby and sort of tried to make eye contact, and she had some idea that maybe if she, I don't know, if the baby noticed her, maybe it wouldn't move around, or I don't know. But it didn't work. It was too late, and suddenly, by this time, by the way, all the other customers in the cafe were looking on, horrified. Some of them went into the building to run up to try and find the parents so that they could get this little baby. But it was too late. The baby fell. And as it fell, on the way down, it hit a sign. And the sign was for a yoga salon, as it happened. And it hit the sign with its head, and blood instantly spurted out of its head. Christina. And she wonders whether this had something to do with her father. He had been the manager of the New York Jets, a baseball team. Maybe it was something to do with that. Who knows? At any rate, she just kind of positioned herself and stood there with her arms outstretched, mobile phone, cell phone in one arm, and the baby, this little baby, fell into her arms. So the baby was as light as a feather. And the baby cried for a little bit, and then it kind of looked into her face and stopped crying and started chortling. You know that word, chortling? Sort of baby laughing. And at that moment, the parents ran up to Christina, and they were crying and things. But they hugged her and they called her. Everyone called her an angel, an absolute angel, and things like that. And it was only later, when she was on the way home in the subway, that suddenly, for no reason whatsoever, she suddenly burst into tears. And maybe that was because, she suddenly thought of what would have happened if she hadn't caught the baby. And that's the story of Christina told. Okay. What I want you to do now, my dear students, is I'd like you in pairs, threes, I'd like you to compare the words you've written down and find out if you've written down the same words. And if they're different, make sure you understand the meaning of all the words you've got. If you don't, tell me. Off you go. It's fantastic. We had a bunch of students energetically doing language work, looking at the words they've written down. The instruction would be, if you don't understand the words, I want you to make sure, use a dictionary, ask the teacher, or ask the person you're working with. Lots of words and phrases from the story. And then I'll tell the story again, and you do it again, until suddenly you're getting all the language from the story for yourself, but I'm not forcing you to learn anything. Actually, the language that you choose to learn is the language that you choose to learn. And it's really student-centered. Bye-bye, you two. Thank you so much for your lovely presentation. See you again. Enjoy your seltzer. See you in Cheltenham one day. She's from Cheltenham in England. And the students have got all this language. And now if I get you to tell the story, maybe you were in the cafe and you saw it, you've got all this language which you can take home with you. The message, just before the very last little thing, the message is a very simple message. Stories really work. But they only work if we can think of good ways of getting students to take the language from them. And here's one more thing you could do. After this session, you can Google this story. All you have to put into Google is the following sentence. I caught a falling baby. And you'll see the story. I caught a falling baby.
So it's a real story.
It's a real story. I wouldn't tell you a lie. Maybe. And if you Google it, the penultimate paragraph is this. This is Christina. And of course, you know what I would do with this, don't you, if you were here yesterday?
Yeah.
I would say to you, my dear students, choose your favourite 2 or 3 words or phrases that you would like to put into your suitcase and take home. You choose. And then you can tell me and we'll make sure everyone understands them. You choose, okay? And then take them home. And now we've got a perfect learning circle. And everything that has happened has been about getting language. But it doesn't feel like a grammar lesson. It feels like something else. It feels like getting language, taking it, putting it into your suitcase and taking it home. And finally, the last thing from me here in Rostov-on-Don this time is not from me at all. Because I was telling you about stories and the power of stories, which we all know. So I'd like you to hear what a good story really sounds like. Let me explain. When we tell stories to our students, we enter another zone. We should take on another role. Storytelling is a skill, an art. And when we tell stories to students, we don't just tell stories like, present perfect story. It's something else. If you want, I spent quite a lot of time with the Christina story trying to make it sound good, with pauses and repetitions and all that kind of thing. Why? Because it was a story, different from me talking to you about methodology, blah, 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 blah. No, this was a story. And you want to hear what storytelling should be like? I'm going to introduce you. No, I'm not. I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to introduce you, if we have time, I'm going to introduce you to a good friend of mine. Her name is Jan Blake. She's British. And can we shut the door just for 3 minutes? It's about 3 minutes, this story. Her name is Jan Blake, and this is her story.
Once upon a time, a man walked across the African plains with his wife. The man carried his spear and a bow and arrow across his back. The woman had a baby tied across her back. As they walked, the husband turned to his wife and he said, "Wife, I'm hungry. You have the ability to turn yourself into a leopardess. Put down the baby, transform yourself, chase down that herd of bush cows. Catch one bush calf for me, bring it back, change yourself back into a woman, skin it, clean it, cook it, prepare it the way I like it, and feed me." The woman said, "But husband, are you not a hunter? Do you not have your spear? Do you not have your bow and your arrow?" And he said, "I am your husband. If I tell you to turn yourself into a leopardess, you will. If I tell you to chase down that herd of bush cow, you will. If I tell you to bring back a bush calf, skin it, cook it, prepare it, and serve it to me, you will, because I am your husband." The woman said, "Are you sure you know what you're asking?" And he said, "Yes, I do, and do as you are told." So the woman untied the baby and set him on the ground. That woman, her eyes became the eyes of a leopard. That woman, her teeth became the teeth of a leopard, and her hands became the paws of a leopard, and her back became the back of a leopard, and her skin became the fur of a leopard, and her heart became the heart of a leopard. And she looked at her husband and she said, and that man was so afraid, he ran to the nearest tree and into the branches, and he clung on for dear life. that woman, that leopard woman, she turned and she ran across the plains, chasing down that herd of bush cows. She turned the herd this way and she turned the herd that way. She chased and she chased and she fell upon the youngest of the bush calf with the tenderest meat. She fell upon his throat, she tore his throat open, she brought the bush calf back to where the baby was laying. And that woman, that leopard woman, her fur became the skin of a woman, and her back became the back of a woman, and her paws became the hands of a woman, and her teeth became the teeth of a woman, and her eyes became the eyes of a woman, and her heart became the heart of a woman. And that woman, she skinned that bush calf, she cleaned the bush calf, she built a fire, she pushed a stick through the bush calf's body, she made a spit, she turned and she roasted, and she turned and she roasted, and she turned and she roasted the meat. And when that meat was cooked to a turn, she cut some of the meat and prepared it the way her husband liked it. She looked up at the tree and she said, "Husband, come down. Here is your meat." And he said, he refused to come down from the tree. "Husband," she said, "here's your meat. Come, eat." But he refused to leave that tree. At that moment, the baby began to cry. The woman lifted the baby. She dropped her blouse. She latched the baby to her breast. And it was then and only then that her husband recognized her. He came down from the top of that tree. He grabbed the piece of meat his wife had prepared for him. He went to one side and, watching his wife, he ate it. When he was satisfied that his wife was back to her true self, he said, "Woman, put out the fire, gather the meat, wrap it, put the baby on your back. We must leave." "Of course, husband," she said. She put out the fire. She gathered the meat, she wrapped it in its own skin. She put the baby on her back, she tied it tight, and before they left, she said, "Husband, there's something I must say. Remember, my name is woman, and I am capable of anything you ask of me. So in future, be careful what you ask."
And that's how you tell a story. And if we had time, I'd like to analyse some of the things she did. Some of the pauses, the hesitations, the constant repetition of bits and pieces. The absolute personification in her of a storyteller. Not Jan, but a storyteller. And although I can't be Jan and you can't be Jan, but something of that quality is the quality we need if we're going to tell a story to engage students in that way.
I'm sorry. Where can I find this video? On YouTube and show it to my husband.
Well, if you Google Jan Blake, and it's B-L-A-K-E, you may be able to find it. And the story is called The Leopardess. The Leopardess. Leopardess. Yes, please.
I read this story in a collection of African stories, it's a folk story, so you might put it in a text.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leopard woman it was called, but I mean there are variations.
No, Olga's quite right. Of course, this is one of the countless Ashanti stories from Western Africa that were brought over by the slaves. And Jan tells a lot of those kind of stories. But she tells stories from Russia, from the Czech Republic as well.
There are a lot of stories back there.
What?
There are a lot of stories back there.
You only finished. Say again.
She tells a lot of stories. This is not the only one.
Oh no, she tells millions of stories. Yeah. Oh no, what her job is she's a storyteller. That's what she does for a living, and that's one of the reasons she's so damn good. But anyway, listen. I wanted to leave the best to last. I think that's like a class in how to do your job well. And her job happens to be storytelling. And she does it with supreme skill. And I think, and I think what we aspire to, all of us as teachers, is to do what we do really well. And one of the lessons I take from Jan is she has studied her craft. She didn't wake up one morning and tell a story. Bang. No, this is the work of a professional. And sometimes when we think about teaching, we think it's just a nice thing to do, but it's a profession. And it's something we need to practice and study and work on and think about. And maybe, just maybe, we will get better and better and better. We hope. And I know that I am, in that British expression, preaching to the converted. Why? Because you're all here. And being here is part of that journey of trying to get better and better. And thank you very much for coming.